وقد تناهى الابتداء بابن فورك إلى أن قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأما اليوم فلا. Right. So this same Ibn Furak, and this shows you what happens to people of misguidance. That if you choose misguidance, your end affair is going to be evil. So what did Ibn Furak? He says, وَقَدْ تَنَاهَى الْإِبْتِدَاء. So innovation led this man to such a degree that he said, and this is a statement which is ascribed to him, he said, كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم وَأَمَّا الْيَوْمِ فَلَا. So what he means is, the messenger of Allah used to be a messenger when he was alive, but as for today, then no. Okay, so this needs some explanation. What does he mean here? Why they're saying what they're saying? So in order to understand this mas'ala, we have to understand another issue. This is connected to Allah's attributes, right? So what was happening is, let's go back a couple of centuries, in the time of the Mu'tazila and Ibn Kullab, right? So the Mu'tazila are saying Allah cannot have attributes. If you ascribe attributes to Allah, it means you have made Allah to be composite. Because if there's Allah and knowledge, Allah and wisdom, Allah and hearing, Allah and seeing, they are treating the attributes as if they are separate entities, right? Now you have, claimed there are other eternal things along with Allah. This is the argument of the Mu'tazila, right? The Mu'tazila are saying this. So Ibn Kullab is trying to argue back. Okay, how can I prove Allah has attributes? Because Allah clearly has knowledge, Allah has wisdom, Allah has hearing, Allah has seeing. So these are Allah's attributes. But the Mu'tazila are saying to me that no, this means there are eternal things with Allah. This is falsehood. So they've invented a principle, and this shows the danger of innovation and the danger of arguing by way of philosophy and by way of Kalam. So they invented a principle which they said, Al-Arad la yabqa zamanain. Al-Arad la yabqa zamanain. Right? So what they meant by this was like a solution they tried to find to the argument of the Mu'tazila. So what they said was basically, look, the attributes of Allah are eternal with Allah, right? But as for the a'rad, like the temporary attributes, then what's happening is that Allah is creating that attribute in every moment. Like for example, let's say, for example, this is cold, the water is cold, right? It's a property of the water. What they are saying is, no, at every minuscule amount of time, that coldness of the water disappears, Allah recreates it again. Right? So imagine every, 1/1000th of a second, imagine that we can divide time into just 1/1000th of a second. They are saying that this water has the property of like coldness for 1/1000th of a second, then it perishes. Then Allah recreates it again. Then it perishes. Then Allah recreates it again. Then it perishes. Then Allah recreates it again. And it perishes 1,000,000,000 times in a second. Right? So what they're saying is the difference between Allah's attributes are with Him eternal, but whereas our a'rad in this creation, Allah is destroying, creating, destroying, creating, destroying, creating, destroying, creating at every moment of time. Right? So in other words, this is your argument to try and distinguish between Allah's attributes and the attributes in the creation. Al-arad la yabqa zamanain. Right. Now, what happens now then is that when you start inventing these principles to patch up a flaw and a mistake in your creed, you are now going to affect other areas of creed. So what this means that, well, hang on, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, then doesn't this apply to him as well? and his status of being a prophet. So if he has now died and passed away, then the status of being a prophet no longer applies to him anymore, built upon this principle, right? So that's why it was attributed to some of the Asharis, even though they deny it. They don't say, oh no, we don't say the Messenger of Allah is no longer a Messenger of Allah today. We don't say it. But really the principles they are using, it implies that that's what you need to believe, right? So Ibn Furak, it is said about him that this is what he said: Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa amma al-yawm fala. Right? So when the Ash'aris realized, hold on, this means that according to our belief, the Messenger of Allah is no longer a messenger. So then they brought another belief to patch up that one. And what is that belief? They say the Messenger of Allah is alive in the grave with the same type of life that we have. So meaning that he didn't actually die. So because he hasn't died, therefore he is still a prophet now, and he will remain a prophet. Can you see what's going on? Right? You argue against the people of bid'ah with falsehood. You invent a false principle. That false principle necessitates another false belief. So to patch that false belief up, you now bring another false belief, right? And so it's like a chain, and this is what happens, right? So this Ibn Furak, it was said about him that he said he used to be the Messenger of Allah, but as for today, then no. So what did As-Sultan Mahmud do? فَأَمَرَ السُّلْطَانِ بِقَتْلِهِ بِالسُّمِّ. So the ruler ordered him to be killed by poisoning. He had him killed by way of poisoning.